This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Chinese President Xi Jinping calls for an orderly return to work combined with strong epidemic control. Egypt's president meets Ethiopian envoy to discuss a dam issue. And many Ugandans uncertain about the perfect age to get married. Hello and welcome. You're watching Africa Live. We're coming to you live from Nairobi. I'm Hannah Viviers, and still to come in this half hour. Data shows a daily record of at least 41 divorce cases in Tunisia. And in your sport, young prodigy Simtandile Shabalala curving his path to greatness one putt at a time. We start with the latest on the coronavirus outbreak. China has reported over 650 new cases from Saturday. More than 23,000 patients have recovered so far. Most of the new figures were reported by Hubei province, where the outbreak began in the provincial capital, Wuhan. Guangdong, Zhejiang, and Henan provinces are the next worst affected areas, each with more than 1,200 cases. New infections, however, are on the decline. The virus is spread to 28 other countries, which altogether have reported more than 1,900 cases and 22 deaths. South Korea and Japan are the worst hit. Japan has confirmed 838 cases, with nearly 700 aboard a cruise ship, which was quarantined at Yokohama port. All passengers have since disembarked. South Korea has reported 6 deaths so far, with 602 confirmed cases. The surge in infections is mostly traced to a hospital and a religious sect in the country's southeast. In the Middle East, Iran has shut down schools, universities, cultural centers, and has suspended sports events following the deaths of 8 people. Chinese President Xi Jinping has called for more progress in containing the coronavirus outbreak. At the same time, he stressed the need to resume production and normal life in an orderly way. He was speaking at a conference on controlling the epidemic and maintaining social and economic development. Xi Jinping said containment in communities and treatment of patients were key to curbing the spread of the epidemic. He called for stronger containment efforts in Beijing. The neighboring Beijing, Tianjin, and Hebei regions should work together to cut off the source of infection as much as possible. He said frontline medics must have adequate protection and have their daily needs met. To avoid hospital infections, medical staff should be given further training on epidemic prevention. President Xi called for accelerated work on developing a vaccine and prompt diagnosis and treatment. He urged more international and regional cooperation. He said China would continue to maintain close contact with the World Health Organization, share information with other countries, and strengthen international cooperation on developing vaccines. As work starts to resume around the country, President Xi said different regions had different levels of risk, so they should resume production to different degrees. New policies would also be rolled out to help small and medium-sized enterprises. Meanwhile, the president reiterated that China would continue to optimize its business environment to promote a long-term foreign investment. South Korea is on highest alert after a rapid surge in COVID-19 infections. It now has 602 confirmed cases and 6 deaths. Our correspondent Joseph Kim tells us more from Seoul.
South Korea, one of the biggest obstacles facing the country is the fact that some are not abiding by the measures that the government is putting forward in terms of banning public gatherings as well as religious activities. However, this is one of the main reasons that South Korea has raised its alert level from orange to the highest red. With this, the South Korean government will be able to have the authority to, whether it is to prevent and forcibly stop public activities or even cut and shut down public facilities such as schools or other government buildings. Now, South Korean President Moon said about this,
the COVID-19 situation has reached a critical point. The next several days will be very critical. We must not only detect infections as quickly as possible and treat patients accordingly, but also prevent the virus from further spreading.
Iran has reported at least 43 COVID-19 cases, 8 of whom have died from the disease. It's the highest number of deaths outside China. Religious pilgrimage trips to neighboring Iraq have been suspended. Our correspondent Jack Barton is in Tehran with more.
Yeah, that's right. The situation is moving so quickly here in Iran that I can guarantee you by the time we've finished talking, there will be new developments. We're seeing that toll rise. What is very clear is that the epicenter of the outbreak in the region is Iran. The 2 latest cases in the United Arab Emirates, they were both Iranian tourists, and the first case to be reported in Lebanon was a person from Qom, about 120 kilometers south of the capital Tehran, where that outbreak was first reported on Wednesday. Among the latest people to be reported, we've got the mayor of District 13 here in Tehran has been confirmed that he is infected. There are also news reports that 2 candidates who actually won seats in Friday's parliamentary election may also have the virus, but we're still waiting for confirmation from the government. That's just news reports at the moment. The government doing a lot at the moment. Cinemas have been shut down, theatres, galleries, all education institutions in more than a dozen provinces. The cafes on the metro, water fountains have been closed. And of course, as we go to restaurants, we're seeing they're very empty. There's advertising campaigns. But it has to be said, a lot of distrust about the figures, given they're so low, and the death rate to the infection rate is so disproportionate compared to what we've seen everywhere else. People are, that I've spoken to, distrusting the figures. The fact that as of today, journalists have been banned from speaking to doctors or pharmacists has, it have to be said, fed into that level of distrust.
As the world intensifies efforts to curb the spread of the coronavirus, the Chinese embassy here in Kenya has issued a directive to its staff and all Chinese companies stating that anyone arriving from China must exercise self-isolation for 2 weeks and adhere to a strict health examination. CGTN's Robert Nagila visited one family who's been separated for the past weeks and were reunited after the quarantine period elapsed.
At this apartment block in Nairobi, New Xiao Kun, a mother of one, is preparing a special breakfast for her husband. He's been in self-quarantine for the past 2 weeks since returning from China, and his family have not seen him in that period. But his wife says it was the right decision.
Oh, I feel safe because it's for him and for us and for all the people in Kenya.
Since the outbreak of the virus, the Chinese embassy in Nairobi has ordered all returning Chinese nationals to go through a strict health examination and self-quarantine.
Whatever they have symptoms or not, to isolate themselves at home for 14 days.
Once the meal made up of dumplings is ready, New and her daughter Alita take it to the apartment next door where her husband has been staying.
Hi, Alita. How are you?
The reunion is even more emotional now that the family is sure Jiang does not have the virus.
Actually, it's quite boring during this time because I can't go anywhere. I just stay at home. Even open the door, it's a pressure for me because I don't want any problem, any risk of the spread of the virus.
He'd visited the company headquarters in Beijing for an annual meeting and returned to Nairobi on the 4th of February. Currently working on a project in Zimbabwe, he says he threw himself into his work, sometimes having 10-hour days. The only contact with his family was by phone.
I get up early at 8 o'clock, sometimes even earlier, because I have to coordinate my colleagues in China, my technical people, and my financial people.
What do you like about Kenya?
I like Kenya very much. Actually, my
Later in the afternoon, they attend an event publicizing the importance of self-quarantine in controlling the spread of the virus. As yet, there's been no confirmed case in Kenya. Robert Nagila, CGTN, Nairobi, Kenya.
It's time now for us to take a short break. More news will return, including many Ugandans uncertain about the perfect age to get married. And we take a closer look at South Africa's tattoo industry.
Each day, there are millions of stories. Each one can open new perspectives, new possibilities. Wherever you look, we are there to see, discover, explore. We put the pieces together to find what really matters to you, all around the world, all around the clock. Our reporters are at home across the globe. From our headquarters in Beijing and production centers in Washington, Nairobi, and London, China Global Television Network. Stories from across the globe, reaching people across the globe. CGTN. See the difference.
Welcome back. Well, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has met with Ethiopia's special envoy to Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed in Cairo. The meeting focused on finalizing the agreement on the Grand Ethiopia Renaissance Dam. An initial agreement had been reached in Washington, D.C. earlier this month. Ethiopia, however, says a lot of work still needs to be done. Here's Adel El-Marouki with more.
In the Ittihadiyya Presidential Palace in Cairo, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has welcomed former Ethiopian Prime Minister Hailemariam Desalegn, who is currently the special envoy for Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. Back in 2015, Desalegn was leading the country when Egypt, Sudan and Ethiopia signed the Declaration of Principles document for the Grand Ethiopia Renaissance Dam. With that document, Ethiopia has officially gotten Egypt's approval on the dam. The three countries have vowed to take no-harm policies and support the other's economic development and water security. Since then, however, talks between Cairo and Addis Ababa have taken many hard turns. Egypt resorted to the United States to broker a deal after it declared negotiations have reached a dead end. Washington, D.C., and after many delays in signing a deal, an initial agreement has been made. But Ethiopia has not signed yet and says more work needs to be done. This weekend, el-Sisi and Desalegn have reviewed the latest of what has been reached in the negotiations. President el-Sisi has confirmed Egypt's commitment to make these efforts succeed. He stressed the imminent signing of the agreement on the rules for filling and operating the dam should maintain balance between the interests of all parties. Egypt is hoping an agreement would broaden prospects of cooperation, coordination and development. But while a successful GERD talks would boost stability in the region, failure to reach an agreement would spark much unwanted tension. Cairo is fighting to preserve its share in the Nile water, the main source of fresh water in the country, a matter that cannot be taken lightly. Adel El-Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
The importance of marriage for young people appears to have been diminishing globally for years. In Uganda, opinion is divided over the perfect age to get married. CGTN's Leon Seanga reports.
Take this ring as a sign of my love.
Months of planning finally come to this, the wedding day. It is the desired milestone for many.
But when we talk about being sanctifiable, inside marriage lies one strong word of virtue, which is commitment.
National statistics show that nearly 5 in every 10 females and 4 in every 10 male adults were married in 2018. But the trend in the need to commit is changing. According to the National Registration Services Bureau, there are more registered marriages than separations in Uganda. But even with a growing number of people tying the knot, many young adults are still holding back. And it's a discussion that some young people are open to having. These students in their 20s with concerns about why they would not marry early.
We have a challenge of finance. So around like 20, 25, even 30, the economical foundation is still low, or it is not there.
I just made 23 years, and I don't think I can get married at this age of mine, because if you're to see the cost of living in Uganda, it doesn't favor the youth.
But Elvis thinks otherwise. He says marriage is a full-time commitment that needs dedication.
It's all about accepting. Accept the responsibility you're going to hold, and then you plan together.
However, marriage patterns still continue to change because of cultural differences and even education. For some, cohabitation seems the best way to start out before getting married. Leon Sanyanga, CGTN, Kampala, Uganda.
Meanwhile, in Tunisia, the marriage institution appears to be under siege as well. Data shows that at least 41 cases of divorce are recorded each day in Tunisia. According to analysts, issues including unemployment as well as difficult social and economic situations are contributing to the decrease in marriages. CGTN's Adnan Shiwashi tells us more.
Raudha holds a physics degree. She was born and raised in the city of Kasserine in the Midwest of Tunisia. She has joined a 4-month-long sit-in of a group of university graduates near the Tunisian parliament to denounce the unjust treatment of job seekers who no longer think of founding a family.
Many people are desperate. They cannot find a stable job, so there's no way of thinking about engagements and marriages. Our protest name is the Wheel of Life. There's always hope, but there's no marriage without a decent job.
After 10 years of unemployment, Ramadan is still focused on finding a job. The 34-year-old math teacher says only the luckiest who are hired by the public or private sector can get married.
Marriage is a dream that we cannot realize without a source of income. My younger brother got married because they chose not to study or were lucky to work, but I cannot because it's impossible to save money. Providing the everyday necessities is difficult.
The Commission of Rights and Liberties at Parliament has sounded the alarm about the social and economic situation of youths who can no longer afford to engage in a serious relationship. Experts believe that many Tunisian families have money for marriage, but they have limited budgets to help their children.
The state economic and social policies led to high unemployment. In addition, many Tunisian families have a traditional view of marriage and too many conditions. Consequently, young people fear the marriage institution, but the state should not abandon its youth. Together, we can find a solution.
Although the restrictions imposed by the Tunisian legal system to limit the phenomenon of divorce, recent statistics show that the number of cases has reached around 15,000 per year. This data deters many couples from long-term engagement.
There are over 650,000 unemployed people in Tunisia, including more than 250,000 university graduates. The majority still believe in the marriage institution. However, job insecurity and the high cost of life are the main obstacles facing young couples. Adnan Shawishi, CGTN, Tunis.
From the exotic and wild to classic and crazy, tattoos have burst into pop culture. In South Africa, the age-old tradition has become mainstream with clients from all walks of life. CGTN's Julie Shaya visited a tattoo studio in Johannesburg to find out more about the industry.
Not so long ago, tattoos were considered taboo. In the 1960s and 70s, they were seen as seedy. Now they're becoming mainstream, more accepted, and the influence of celebrity culture is helping.
This was my first tattoo.
What is this?
This is a voodoo doll.
Okay.
No reason why I got it. Second tattoo, I think, was these two, Carpe Noctem, which means seize the night.
Cool.
I don't think there's like one reason why I love tattoos. I think, as an artist, I just gravitate towards art and things that look pretty and things that look nice. And I wanted them on my body. You know, it used to be like a taboo thing, you know, but right now my mom is cool with it.
Tattoos have long been considered taboo in many conservative societies, but now they seem to have become a norm as young people get inked, and social media seems to be lending a hand.
I follow a lot of tattoo artists. I follow a lot of visual artists, so that's where most of my inspiration comes from. I feel like, you know, if I was to go to like a musician's page or, you know, someone who was a celebrity and get inspiration from their pieces, you know, it would be a lot of like duplicates and a lot of copying and, you know, not much, you know, individualism.
As far as stigma goes, I think over the last 10 years it's kind of dulled down a bit with regards to how tattoos are viewed and stuff. I mean, it's been a lot of coverage for it in social media, on these tattoo TV shows we've had. I think it's raised like a lot of awareness about what we as tattooers do.
Tattoo artists across South Africa are delighted with the trend. They feel they can promote the culture around tattoos and fight the stigma that still surrounds body art in some communities.
It's worked in our favor, I think, for all of us. The exposure of tattoos, why people have it done, the story behind it, has got a lot of people thinking, and a lot of people who thought they would never have a tattoo now wants a tattoo. So it's opened people's minds, and it's definitely picked up with work. It's a good thing.
South Africa's growing acceptance of tattoos has resulted in tattoo parlors becoming a contributor to the country's small business landscape. And whether you like them or not, they seem to be here to stay. Julie Shara, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
Your sport action after the break. Here's what you can expect. Young protege Simtandile Chabalala curving his path to greatness one putt at a time. Time now for your sport news. Off to the golf course where another 8-year-old protege from South Africa, Simtandile Sim Tiger Chabalala, is living his dream of becoming the next Tiger Woods. The young golfing sensation jets around the world as he continues to hone his craft. Here's CGTN's Yulisa Njamela with his story.
He's only 8 years old, but he's turning heads everywhere as he rises up the golf rankings. South Africa's young golf sensation Simtandile Sim Tiger Chabalala has been creating a stir as he travels the world, gaining experience and finishing up the leaderboards wherever he goes. So when we met him, we first asked the young prodigy, what would you tell anyone interested in knowing you or about you?
Well, I would have to tell them that, do you know this person, this wonderful golfer, plays golf around the world, and he's on Twitter, and also can search on YouTube.
The young lad is quite pleased with his achievements thus far.
I feel very honored and very proud of myself because I wouldn't be here if I was not playing golf this well. And thanks for my family and God for everything, and I'm just thankful and honored to be here.
His proud father also doubles up as his caddy.
We are very, very proud of this young man. I mean, we've come far, and for him to achieve what he's achieved at this young age, it's very fulfilling. And as parents, my wife and I are very proud of this young boy.
We asked Sim Tiger's father how he knew that his son loved golf.
The goal was to expose him to different sports until I find out what his talent is. So when he was 2, we took him for professional lessons on tennis, on soccer, cricket, swimming. And then when he was 4, then we did golf, but then I didn't know anything about golf. So what we did, we had to go on YouTube to check how golf is played. And then I'll teach him from the age of 4.
Sim Tiger had an opportunity of playing with the country's #1 citizen this weekend, President Cyril Ramaphosa. But we could not let Sim Tiger go away without being challenged by these journalists, right? Well, I tried. And won something.
Sim Tiger Chabalala has only been professionally trained for the past few years, but he's already won more than 20 trophies and is sure to win many more. Yudis Njomela for CGTN in Cape Town, South Africa. We cross over to English Premier League, where Manchester United have moved back to 5th place.